The most terrifying monsters are not the ones hiding in the deep wilderness. They are the ones who sit next to you on the morning commute. They wear expensive suits, design the buildings in our cities, and greet their neighbors with a polite smile. For over 2 decades, a ghost haunted the coastal stretches of Long Island, New York. A predator so calculating, so detached, that he managed to mock the authorities while continuing his normal routine as a family man and professional architect. But every pattern has a flaw. Today we break down the definitive conclusion to one of the most agonizing serial mysteries in American history: the tracking, capture, and final accountability of the Gilgo Beach killer. The nightmare officially began on a freezing December morning in 2010. Police officers were conducting a routine trading exercise with a canine unit along a desolate, wind-swept highway known as Ocean Parkway. The thick brush separating the road from the salt marshes was entirely quiet. Suddenly, the tracking dogs stopped, alerting to a dark burlap sack hidden deep in the undergrowth. Inside, investigators made a gruesome discovery: the skeletal remains of a young woman. But the horror was only beginning. Within days, forensic teams combed the immediate radius and located 3 more bodies, all within a few hundred feet of each other. The victims were quickly identified by the media as the Gilgo Four: Maureen Brainard Barnes, Melissa Barthélemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. They were all young, independent women who had vanished between 2007 and 2010 after traveling to Long Island for work. The task force realized they were dealing with an incredibly methodical serial offender. The victims had all been strangled, wrapped in identical burlap, and placed carefully along the exact same side of the highway. There were no weapons left behind, no footprints, and no clear forensic links. The trail went completely cold, leaving a dark shadow over the parkway for over 10 years. To understand how a killer remains invisible for 20 years, you have to look at the mask they wear. While the FBI was attempting to build a criminal profile, Rex Heuermann was living a life of affluent normalcy. He was a successful architectural consultant who owned his own firm right in the heart of Manhattan. He was married, had children, and lived in a modest suburban home in Massapequa Park, just a short drive away from the very beaches where the victims were found. To his colleagues, Heuermann was an eccentric, large man who was overly meticulous about blueprints and city codes. But behind closed doors, his digital life was an absolute descent into sadism. Using burner cell phones and hidden internet proxy accounts, Heuermann spent his off-hours hunting through online classified ads. He targeted vulnerable women, using absolute precision to isolate them from their support networks. The moment they stepped into his vehicle, his ordinary persona vanished. Investigators would later reveal that he carried out his horrific crimes right in his own basement, while his family was safely out of town on vacation, believing his soundproofed home would keep his dark secret buried forever. The breakthrough did not come from a sudden confession, but from a meticulous review of an overlooked file. In 2022, the newly formed task force re-examined the original missing person logs from the night Amber Lynn Costello vanished. A witness had noted seeing a dark green first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche parked near her residence shortly before she disappeared. When detectives queried the New York registration database for that specific rare vehicle model owned by a resident in the area, a single name popped up: Rex Heuermann. The moment his name entered the system, the dominoes began to fall. Cyber investigators pulled his historical cell phone tower logs and discovered a terrifying correlation. Whenever a victim vanished, Heuermann's personal and burner devices pinged off the exact same cellular towers. Furthermore, an anonymous email account linked to his office computer had been used to search for real-time police updates regarding the Gilgo Beach task force. The predator was actively monitoring his own hunters. But the team knew that circumstantial cell data wasn't enough to secure a conviction. They needed his DNA. In early 2023, an elite surveillance team was assigned to shadow Heuermann through the crowded sidewalks of Manhattan. They watched as the towering architect walked out of his office building, carrying a cardboard pizza box. He sat down on a public bench, finished a slice, and discarded the remaining crust into a trash bin before walking away. An undercover detective immediately retrieved the box and rushed it directly to the forensic laboratory. Scientists extracted a clean DNA profile from the pizza crust and compared it to a single strand of hair that had been found preserved on the burlap used to wrap Megan Waterman back in 2010. The result was an absolute match. Additional hairs found at the crime scene were linked to samples retrieved from Heuermann's domestic trash cans, proving his household environment was directly tied to the disposal of the victims. On July 13, 2023, the trap was officially sprung. Tactical units swarmed Heuermann on a busy Manhattan street, throwing him into handcuffs in broad daylight. Simultaneously, forensic teams in white hazmat suits descended upon his Massapequa Park home, spending weeks excavating his basement and yard, pulling hundreds of pieces of hidden evidence out into the daylight. Faced with an unyielding mountain of forensic evidence, including his vehicle tracking, cell phone logs, and undeniable DNA signatures, Rex Heuermann's defense completely collapsed. The timeline of his crimes was blown wide open, stretching all the way back to 1993 with the murder of Sandra Costilla. The legal process culminated in a quiet, tense courtroom. Heuermann agreed to a comprehensive plea deal, officially pleading guilty to 7 counts of murder and admitting to an 8th. The sentencing hearing was filled with intense emotion as the children and siblings of the victims stood just feet away from the killer, delivering devastating impact statements. They spoke of the decades of agonizing survival guilt, the empty chairs at holiday tables, and the weight they had carried while a monster walked free. On June 17, 2026, the judge delivered the final blow, multiple consecutive terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole. The shadow on the parkway was finally lifted, leaving behind a profound reminder that no matter how complex the disguise, the progress of justice will always tear down the dark walls of deception.